Thank you so much for attending my PowerPoint presentation on Lich Grim, Win in the Draft Screen. Lich and Grimstroke have the very obvious combo that they have between their ultimates. Grimstroke can cast Soulbind, which will keep two heroes lassoed to each other and also multiply any point target spells that are cast on them. Meanwhile, Lich has his ultimate, a point target spell that hits people when they stand next to each other, so it's pretty obvious what you should do. Have Grimstroke cast his ultimate to wrestle two heroes together, then Lich casts his ultimate. You now have two Lich ults going around in the fight, and two heroes that can't run away from it bouncing between the two of them. Now, obviously, the nature of Dota is such that one of these Lich ults will inevitably leave these two guys being lassoed together. That's totally fine. Even a bad Lich ult is still a good Lich ult when there's two of them. Now, while there is a massive amount of reward for landing these spells in succession, it is actually a little bit harder than it sounds. Neither of these heroes have particularly good cast range on their ultimates, and they're both very squishy. There are some weaknesses in this that you can exploit, but just know that if you do get Lich Grimmed, you're probably going to lose that team fight. And if you lose enough team fights, you'll probably lose the game. Now let's say you either are Lich, are Grim, or you're an extremely angry carry because you lost your lane, and you have to convince your supports to work together. Here's some tips that you can have in order to make sure that they use their ultimates. First, while these heroes do have defensive abilities built into their kit, they are still squishy, and a very angry Ursa with a Basher and a Blink Dagger can tear this combo apart like wet paper. So the positioning for both of them has to be extremely conservative. This means hiding behind the rest of the heroes on your team. This means hanging out in trees. This means going Aether Lens so you can cast your spells from a mile away, and also optimizing your neutral item for cast range as well. Basically, they need to stay as far away from the fight as they possibly can while still being able to get their spells off. There are a couple of other items that they can use besides Aether Lens to help this combo get off. Force Staff is the most obvious one. They can Force Staff themselves in to cast the ultimate, or they can use Force Staff on their mid, carry, offlaner to get them out of a tight spot. Blink Dagger is optimal for this, but it doesn't actually give you anything to help your team with, so Force Staff is usually the safer bet. Of course, going items like these means you're foregoing items like Glimmer Cape or Yule Scepter or other traditional support items. You can't go Pavice, it doesn't help the combo. Your team might be a little bit upset that you aren't going those traditional support items, but the second they see those two big blue balls bouncing around in a team fight, they'll forgive you for spending 900 gold on a recipe in the early game. Of course, there are a lot of other synergies with this that go beyond just Lich. If you have cores like Phantom Lancer, Viper, and Doom, anyone else with really strong point target abilities, Chaos Knight, Wind Ranger, they're going to benefit a lot from this combo existing as well. And the last major tip that I have is to make sure that Grimstroke goes first. If the Lich player gets a little antsy, gets a little impatient, uses his ultimate, the combo is over. That ultimate's probably going to be terrible because he casted it in a panic, and now Grimstroke just has to kind of sit around and wait for the Lich ulti to come off cooldown for him to actually do his job. So make sure that the Grimstroke goes first, so have some nuts if you're the Grim, and then if you're the Lich, have some patience, please. I have some thoughts on how the draft system both encourages and discourages cheesy combo picks like this in pubs and in captain's mode. Wrote about it here, read it if you want. So, once you've had a team fight or two absolutely ruined by these two squishy little boys, you're probably wondering how to deal with it, and there are quite a few ways to do so. Both of these characters do have really strong defensive abilities built into their kit, but a Templar Assassin blinking in, casting Meld and blowing them up, that's just going to happen. So being able to pick one off before the combo is able to happen in a team fight is very, very valuable. There are obvious examples like TA, Ursa, Ricky, but honestly, any hero with a Blink Dagger can tear these guys apart. They're really not tanky at all, and the items that they have to build don't really help them get it off. The second option that you have, and this one's a little bit less interactive, is you can just try to stall it out. Glimmer Cape can still be used while soulbinded. They'll see where you are, but they can't target you. You get the magic resistance, the ball can't bounce off of you. Yule's is also really good. It eats up about half the duration of soulbind, so you can use that to get rid of a chunk of it and then try to run away if you can. And lastly, just in the macro sense, really zooming out here, Lich Grim is not actually that good of a support duo. Yes, they check a lot of boxes, but both of their stuns are kind of weird. Sinister Gaze has a really long cooldown, even though it also burns mana, and then Grimstroke Inkswell requires a willing participant to run in and put his body on the line. So it's not actually as straightforward as just picking these heroes and hoping it works out. Another issue is that both of these heroes kind of want to be the position 5. Grim is the obvious choice to go pause 4 because of Inkswell. Throw it under Night Stalker, whatever, go off, get a kill. It's good enough. It can work. But they lack some of the things that you would get out of a traditional pause 4. Neither of these guys are tanky at all. They're not really in a position to tank spells or harassment in the lane for their core. Once you take the ultimates out of the equation, there's just a lot of things these guys lack, and they're both squishy. So there are a couple of weaknesses that you can play around. In conclusion, Lich Grim is fun, and you should absolutely play it by blind picking both of them in the very first phase of the draft of a pub game. You two can win team fights regardless of the net worth of anyone on your team or the enemy team, and that's very satisfying. Also, if you ever get a rampage on Lich, this is how you're going to do it. Peace on planet Earth.